Hello and welcome back to RamsTalkPodcast. And we're here today after Derby have beaten Champions League opposition. RB Salzburg or Red Bull Salzburg at home, guess, kind of. We were in their city anyway. It was close enough. And Derby turned up and I'm not going to say played them off the park because that's a complete lie, but put in a really good performance and thoroughly deserved a good win at the start of pre-season. First win of pre-season. We couldn't beat Matlock, but we've gone to a Champions League side and pulled a win out of the bag. So that was really good too. Joining me today to go through all the talking points from the camp, all the talking points from the game and the transfer news of the last week. Yes, you'd be surprised. The Agyemang signing was only last week, but don't worry, we won't talk about it too much. Firstly, we've got Jamie Page. How you doing, pal?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I did miss the game, but I've seen the highlights back from Friday. Actually, I was playing cricket and got a ball straight in the stomach. So, yeah, been nursing that all weekend. So maybe I'll just stick to football, right?
Yeah, you maybe should, although the way you got pushed off the ball at that last Pride Park game, mate, maybe you need the physicality. Maybe you need to take some hits and might put you up a bit. We've also got Callum Boocock. How you doing, pal?
Yeah, I'm all good, pal. All good. It was good to see some interesting friendlies being announced over the next couple of weeks. And obviously you went to one, which is really good.
Yeah, I've got quite a few bits to say about that, actually. We ended up talking to a lot of the players at the end. So when we get to it later on the episode, talk through some of the stuff that they said. But it's really interesting hearing the perspective, obviously, of John Eustace himself post-match. It's a bit of a weird post-match interview I had with him. It didn't mean to be. Just ended up having a conversation. He went straight into media mode, which made me laugh. But got to chat to some of the lads as well to see how they felt about the camp, etc. So, yeah, it'll be good to talk through that. So, Jamie, let's kick us off. Let's talk about the training camp overall. Now, we've seen these camps before. Under Paul Warne, I think every single second was on video. Under John Eustace, it's a little bit more behind closed doors, which, isn't always a bad thing. But we've seen from the content, the players have worked really, really hard. They've put a big shift in. And you could see they got the reward on Friday. But the best thing for me was that video that Derby put out with Paul Clements, the goalkeeping coach, going through what he was doing with obviously Zetterstrom, Josh Vickers, Jack Thompson, and Richard O'Donnell. I really enjoyed it. I actually watched it back just before we started, recording this. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was really good and really insightful. And how good is it to see the level of coaching we're getting at Derby? Because we've seen some in-depth coaching videos before, but I think that's probably the deepest we've seen.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and credit to the Rams TV and whoever had the idea to do that feature, because I think it was really interesting, something that you don't always get to see. Yeah, I've watched it back a couple of times as well. That's when you know something's good. If you go back and watch it again and pick little things out and enjoy it for a second, third time, or only how many times you watch it again, I think that's how you realise it's good. And yeah, I think what you said there is right. He's obviously a highly rated goalkeeping coach, and you can see the respect and the command that he has over the goalkeepers. And for a young goalkeeper as well, like Jack Thompson coming in and working alongside that as a coach, and Zetterstrom as an international, it's really important to get that work in. And in terms of one of the drills that I watched, you'll notice on the highlights that Vickers makes a save, and it's almost like the role play actually in the real life situation where he's quick to get up and get a hand on something else. So look, these things in training, sometimes you'll get them right, sometimes you won't, but it's really interesting to see it, like, I guess, in the real life situation on a match day.
Well, that's it. And Callum, the best coaches are the ones that can replicate those real life scenarios in training, because we've all played football at whatever level. You know that in training, it's very, very much unrepresentative of real football, isn't it? You get some players in training look like Pele in his prime, and then it comes to a match day and the situation is completely different. They look like they've never seen a ball before. And what Derby have done and what Paul Clements has done there is he's made a representative training session. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. We've seen a couple of clips from what John Eustace and what Matt Gardner and the rest of the team are putting together. It seems like we've got a really good coaching team at Derby, and that week will do wonders for the team.
Yeah, it will. When you see the start of the video, they're looking at not only clips of what they've done, but clips at Premier League goalkeepers that are at top clubs like Arsenal, like David Ray. I think they were looking at one of his clips and him scrambling to a second ball, I think, and he was basically and kind of going into it and going kind of visually showing them what it is, taking them to obviously the training pitch, which I found it funny. It went into the back of it almost like a minivan, and then down the road, and then but replicating it for all four goalkeepers, which is quite cool. That, as Jamie said, you not only had the obviously Josh Vickers, I actually thought looked really good in that training clip. You had Zetterstrom, obviously O'Donnell, and obviously the young lads. And what I liked to hear was the encouragement from Paul Clements. Like he said, when you look at, I think he said to the young goalkeeper that you made a great save yesterday and you didn't do it today, but it's one of those that take the win from previous day. You're not going to do it every single time, and it's kind of that development piece. And I think one of the funny ones was when he said about Zetterstrom. He said, "I think the best saves you've made have not been with your hands." So it's which kind of strikes everything. So yeah, no, it was really cool, really insightful, and I think going forward, it'd be really interesting to see if we can see that from a couple of members of the coaching team.
Yeah, it was very positive, wasn't it? That one you're on about with Jack Thompson made me laugh because he said, you did it so well yesterday and you'd made the save this time. Didn't even go in, mate. Stop moaning. That made me laugh. That he wasn't afraid to sort of, have a quick pop at him. But again, getting back on side with that positivity. And that's what you want, isn't it, as a player? You want a coach that's clearly wanting you to improve. They're not doing it for them. They're doing it for you. And that's really good to see. We've got a comment from Jim talking about how I was posing with the gaffer and the squad. Well, funnily enough, the next day, anyone that follows me on Instagram or anyone I'm friends with would know, me and my brother are sat there. We're in Munich. We're in a square, and we're sat there having sort of a brunch before we travel to the airport for a flight. And I look over to my left, and on his own, just walking through the square, is Jakob Zetterstrom. I look over. Obviously, I'd seen him. We'd had a chat the day before. I saw him. I was like, "Oh, it's Zetterstrom over there." I said to my brother, I was, "Oh, he's over there." And I just shouted, I was like, "Oh, Jacob, you're right, mate." And he came over and had a chat with us. He was there for about 10, 15 minutes. We're talking about his holiday to Berlin and things like that. He seemed a really nice, down-to-earth guy. So, yeah, it's good to see the players. And I think that sort of setting's a really good way for, I guess, players and fan base to connect as well. Because, I'm not going to reveal why he was the only one walking on his own through the middle of Munich. The lads might have gone out the night before, but it was really good. It was really good to see all the lads get on really well with the fans, and obviously we'll get onto some of that stuff later on down the line. But yeah, looked like a really good camp, and the team seemed in really good spirits, which is great too. Jamie, we're going to spend as little time on this as possible because I'm sick of talking about this man. Patrick Adjumani signed finally. Finally, the announcement came early last week. Don't get me wrong, we won't get sick of seeing him on the pitch. Hopefully, he'll deliver for us, and it'll be a really good deal. He's coming. He's been playing with a hernia injury. With a hernia for the last sort of couple of weeks, which kind of makes sense as to why, the last couple of games in the Gold Cup, they said he looked a little bit leggy, looked like he was struggling a bit. Well, you can see why, because he's got a genuinely quite serious injury, but he's having the surgery. He'll be back first couple of games of the season or just after the first couple of games. You happy with it, Jamie? If you cheered up a bit now, if you decide to smile a bit and, enjoy Derby spending money, or, you're still on the sadness train?
Look, I enjoy Derby spending money, don't get me wrong. And I'd much rather have a raw talent like him than going and buying somebody like a Michael Smith or players that we've been linked with previously. So yeah, in terms of the transfer, it's exciting. As I said before, I think the fee for me is just a little bit too big, and it's going to come with some expectation. He's obviously got a bit of time to bed himself in and have a bit of a pre-season, I guess, when he gets back. And I don't think we're going to expect too much from him too soon. But at some point, he's got to live up to the price of what we paid for him. So, yeah, so it's a really interesting one. I hope he settles in quickly. I hope he gets a goal quickly because, as we know with strikers, it's about finding the back of the net. And if they can do that quite quickly, then normally they can gather a little bit of speed and a bit of rhythm. So, yeah, really, really interesting signing. I just hope it's not the last time that we're putting our hand in our pocket this transfer window, though.
Yeah, I know. We definitely need more reinforcements, like Lee says in the comments. We're desperate for a couple of wingers. Although we do have a winger who played pretty well in that game, which was nice to see. Let's get on to the game then and the actual day. If you want to see how I survived the day, and survive is definitely the correct word. It was a really long day in Salzburg, but a really good one as well. We've got a TikTok or a YouTube short all about it. So if you want to check that out after watching this video, then please do. That'd be good to see. But it's a lovely ground, really nice. The arena, I'm not even going to try and say it off the top of my head without it written down in front of me, but the non-tal, as we called it, lovely, lovely ground. It's in a really nice area in Salzburg. Loads of Derby fans came down. I'd say roughly around 300. We filled sort of the far end of the pitch, which I thought was really quite impressive. Loads of flags along the back from different places, which is always nice to see. The view is probably the best I'll ever have at a game. It definitely beats staring into an industrial estate or something like that, like we've had either at home or away in the last couple of years. But Callum, let's get on to the performance, because that first half performance from Derby was really impressive. We had a bit of a ropey start, but we quickly got a foothold in the game. And I thought, considering the opposition, it was a really promising game for us.
Yeah, I think it was going into it. You kind of, especially looking at the team and the squad that Salzburg put out, it was going to be a tough ask. It was going to be interesting to see how we pit ourselves against it. Obviously, I think I've put into our group chat and on social media that I believed it was going to be the same squad. Obviously, I was hoping to see, when I think we were talking on last week when you saw who was going on this trip to Austria, we were hoping to see like a Morris or a Weimann getting a starter, at least on the bench, but unfortunately they couldn't. But I think the first half kind of showed that we do have a little bit of strength in depth in terms of the players that we already had in the squad. So, I mean, the performance of Corey Blackett-Taylor was one to put out. Kane Jackson obviously got on the score sheet. I never thought I'd say that again. And you kind of look at the one thing that I was most impressed with was the defensive structure. And I think that's one thing under Eustace that we're going to see, a very solid, everyone knows the role formation that we're going to be hard to break down. And I think Salzburg, although they had a lot of the ball and we struggled to get to grips with getting possession and kind of getting a foothold on the game, I think we showed what we're kind of going to be next season against certain teams who are going to dominate the ball, and that's a really, really good and comprehensive counter-attacking team.
Well, that's it. And when I spoke to Eustace at the end, I asked him, were you surprised with how well we played? And he said he wasn't really that surprised because they'd done so much work on their shape and working off the ball. Obviously, a lot of the team have been there for over a year now, playing together, and quite a while with Eustace as well since he's come in. And he was really happy with the work off the ball. But like you say there, Cal, on the ball, we just need a little bit more. And that's what he really alluded to, which makes you think, who's he looking at? Who's he looking at to try and fill that gap? But that was it, Jamie. It was a really organised performance by Derby. And, even when you watch the highlights back, you can see when they do get chances, they're often from set pieces. They didn't really threaten us too much in open play. And I think Derby's shape was a real big part of that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you've got limited to go off when you look at highlights. You can only get a feel for how the team's been playing. And for me, I think I've always said, look, pre-season is not about results, but if you go and get a result, you're obviously going to be happy about it. And if you see something that you're positive about, then yeah, hopefully you can kind of take that into the season. I'm not too worried about not seeing the likes of Morris and Weimann and other players like that, because I think we know what they can do, and I think they can probably hit the ground running. But getting your Jacksons, your Corey Blackett-Taylors, Ben Osborne, Kenzo, getting minutes in those legs, I think are the most important things. And also having a bit of a chance to see some of the youth players as well. For me, it's absolutely amazing how quickly the academy has recovered after all we've been through. Like to actually have teams now coming and poaching players again, and players being able to make that step up. It's just a testament to the academy and to the work that people do. And that's from grassroots all the way up to the under 21s and what Buxton is doing at the moment, trying to make that pathway into the first team. So yeah, look, I'm not going to get carried away that we beat them, because I'm never getting carried away at pre-season, but there's a lot of good things there, and hopefully we can see that come the start of the season.
Well, when you've got academy coaches like Vic Singh and Jack Doughty, what do you expect, mate? We've got the next generation coming through at the minute with the best guys to bring them into that first team. But we've mentioned him a few times already, Callum, Corey Blackett-Taylor. Now, going forwards, I thought he was really good. One thing that I thought was really interesting was in that first half, I was directly on that halfway line and I could hear every word that Callum Elder said. And Callum Elder directed Blackett-Taylor at every moment of that first half, when he needed to press, when he needed to drop off, when he needed to go to his man, when he needed to pull inside. And actually, if you look at the goal in the press, Callum Elder shouts for him, press. He tells him to go. And he goes and they misplace the pass and he's through and he scores. And he's learning, isn't he, Cal? He's learning. He's not played at a really high level before. You could see he's always got it going forwards. He can beat a man. He's tricky. But I think part of the problem was he's never had that organisation defensively. His tactical knowledge, his knowledge of the shape maybe isn't quite what it is for other players. He's developing. You can see he's developing. How impressive was he?
He was really impressive, and I think anyone would be playing behind in front of Callum Elder. I love that man so much. But yeah, no. What was really nice was the positivity in terms of not only Corey Blackett-Taylor, but in terms of that press, in terms of the way we pressed, in terms of who we pressed, and it was seemed to pick out certain players. There were certain players on when they got the ball that, as you say, obviously we couldn't quite hear it on Rams TV, but obviously you managed to hear it in person. That if certain players, it was almost like a trigger that they then obviously looked to make that forward move, and everyone kind of moved up the pitch as a unit. And Corey Blackett-Taylor obviously reaped the rewards of that and managed to get on the score sheet, which is only going to improve his confidence. I think the amount of times we can get that lad in front of goal, and whether he scores or whether he just has a shot on target, I think it's just only going to increase that confidence that he's going to have an impact on this squad. And I think that we've been kind of reaching out, obviously, on social media to saying how much we need wingers and how much we need players out wide to get balls into the box for the incoming Agyman and obviously Morris and stuff like that. But I think if we've got someone in Corey Blackett-Taylor who can at least be in and around the squad, whether he starts or whether he comes off the bench or has a major impact this season, will remain to see. But I mean, it's only going to be a positive for now, and it was a really, really good finish. He could have scored that. He could have put it straight at the keeper, and he placed it. He just passed it past him, and I think coming into this coming week with Warsaw, and I reckon he'll start at the next couple of games, and he'll just continue to build that fitness and get those minutes.
Well, I've currently got no one else, mate, so I don't really have a choice. I think he's going to start the next few games. But yeah, definitely some good points. Ryan Jono saying that Aguilar that came on in the second half for Salzburg looked really good. I thought he did look good. They brought on a lad called Traore before that, who I thought was rubbish, and they took him. He got subbed, and they brought Aguilar on, and he's only a young lad, and he looked really dangerous down that side. So yeah, he'd definitely be an interesting one. But Jamie, on Blackett-Taylor, obviously he took his goal well. He pressed really well. He read what they were going to do well. But the best thing he did was that ball for Caden Jackson, because there were a couple of times where he picked up the ball, he cut inside, kind of messed it up a little bit, or he'd got onto his left foot and he'd smacked a cross over everyone's head, and Isaac Gordon had to try and keep it in on the far side. But that time, it was a standard Ibu Adams miss it pass as he falls over and picks him out on the left-hand side. And it's a really good run, stands his man up, beats him, puts the ball into the box, and Caden Jackson rises really high and puts in a really strong header into the bottom corner. But before we get onto the header, Jamie, that's what we want to see from Blackett-Taylor, isn't it? We kind of saw it when Salverson scored, or Salverson almost scored, on his debut a couple of times, where Blackett-Taylor was picking players out of the back post. And we need that. With Morris coming in, with Agyman coming in, that's the sort of quality we need out wide.
I think we need it as a team, and we also need it as fans as well, because how pedestrian football has become at the elite level, where it's almost like they know that they can beat a man and they should beat a man, but 9 times out of 10 they'll play it in field, and it's just quite boring. So to see a player, receive the ball, burn a man and try and get a ball into the box, look, it's not going to work every single time, because that is football. But the fact that he was able to do that just shows you, he's got a bit about him. And I think for Blackett-Taylor, probably like it will be for Jackson as well, is if they have a good pre-season, if they get those minutes and they get that confidence, they can they can make a start. I generally do think that. I think we need more. Don't get me wrong. We definitely need more in wide areas. However, at the moment, it's their shirt to lose. So if they go and play well in the remaining fixtures before the start of the game, then it should be their shirt. And I think we've all been pretty excited about Blackett Taylor at times, and there's been a little bit of promise. Then there's been an injury or a setback, or he started a game or came on off the bench and not really done something. So I'm just hoping it works out for him, because he's the kind of player that you want to love. And I think the same for Patrick Adjiman as well. They're enigmas. I think they've got real good egos, and they're the kind of players that you want to see score and score in front of the South Stand and celebrate. So yeah, let's see what happens with them. But yeah, hopefully he can score again and get some more assists over the course of the next couple of games. I just think it's so Derby County though that he'll score and get an assist against Salzburg, and then he'll probably go to Walsall on Tuesday and not be able to put one foot in front of the other. That's very Derby County. So yeah, we're not going to put too much pressure on him, but yeah, hopefully he can put in some more good performances.
Yeah, the hamstring tear on Tuesday against Walsall will be nice. That'd be classic Derby. But let's get on to Caden Jackson. It was a classic Caden Jackson game, because I actually genuinely don't remember him touching the ball. I know he was on the far side, apart from one to put a bullet header in the bottom corner, and one to pass it straight to them to score, to pull it back to 2-1 in the second half, Callum. But he took his goal really well, and you could tell that it meant a lot to him. Yes, it's a friendly. Yes, it's a game that doesn't mean that much on paper, but he hasn't scored in a long time. His last goal in a Derby shirt in front of anyone came at Luton away, which was a very, very long time ago now. Also a header, ironically, as well. He took it well. He needs the confidence, doesn't he? He needs the confidence. And do you think that will give him a bit?
Yeah, I think it will. I said earlier, I didn't think I'd be saying Caden Jackson and a goal in the same sentence. But I think, look, we've got to get behind all players this season. It's under Eustace, and a full season under Eustace, full pre-season under Eustace could. We saw what Eustace did with Harness at the back end of last season. Harness was unplayable the back end of last season, and before that he was bang average at best. And look, Caden Jackson hasn't got the best rapport with fans in terms of his performances, but at the end of the day, yes, it's one pre-season game. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, but it can only do him good, him scoring, him putting in a little bit of a shift in pre-season. And I think if he just continues to build, the same with Corey Blackett Taylor, I think, again, depending on what we do in the transfer market, they might be the starting pair going into to August at this rate.
God, they better not be. Jesus Christ.
But we've got, as it stands, as we talk on the 20th of July, we have to, because that's where we are. So, and at the end of the day, in a game, whether it's been pre-season or not, they've combined together and got on the score sheet. So it's only a positive. And
Callum, one more player from that first half I want to pick out is Danny Bart. I was really impressed with him. Obviously, we saw him against Mark Luck, which is, is what it is. But he looked brilliant. He was really strong. He was really tight. I noticed that both of their strikers tended to gravitate towards him, because somehow Matt Clark is the quicker of the two. And he'd get really tight on them, and he won the ball. He obviously flattened one of their lads very early on, ended up knocking him into an advertising board, ended up getting stretched off, I think, in the end. But he was really big, really strong, and showed some really good leadership qualities. And it's really good, isn't it, to see players like that. There's not a lot of fanfare when he signed, let's be honest, because people just see him, he played for Wolves, he played for Sunderland in League One, played all right for Blackburn under Eustace, fair enough, squad signing, whatever. But performances like that, if he plays like that in league games, he's going to be a really big signing for Derby.
Yeah, you can see why there was fanfare from Blackburn, to be fair. When he did come, I think they were quite disappointed that he didn't stay because of his performances under Eustace. And I think that we've seen that when a player is happy in a good environment under a manager that he wants to play for, what he can do. And I think we said when, obviously because of Langas's injury, realistically, the back two pair will probably be Matt Clark and Danny Bart. And I think that what better in terms of formation, in terms of starting 11, can you do in terms of a back four and a central back pair than Matt Clark and Danny Batth? I think it's probably one of the better ones in the league, in my opinion. And I think Langas will then only complement that to even make that a 3 if we do. So, yeah, I think the one thing I've been impressed with him is, like you said, that leadership. You could hear it on the stream a slightly bit, but the amount of talking, you'll probably be able to attest to this, the amount of talking that he does in the back line. So I don't think Matt Clark really talks a lot. So I think having someone who does, is a clear leader because of his past 10 years in his previous clubs, I think that will help Matt Clark because, again, he's still the right side of 30. He's still got development to do. So I think it will be a really, real good pairing to start the season.
Jim Johnson says, who do you take out when Langus is fit? Oh, I don't want to think about that question.
Not right now, yeah.
I don't think we'll. I don't.
He's
think
not fit yet, so I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, he's not. Let's not think about that quite yet. Although I feel like the guy that gets picked might be, the Norwegian international. But that's just my view on it. But let's go into the second half now. Obviously, they scored. We were actually meant to sub all the players at half time, interestingly enough. They read all the names out on the tannoy. And then the team from the first half came out again, except we just changed goalkeeper, which made me laugh. Clearly, the lads had said at half time, or Eustace has had a think just before half time and thought, let's give them another 15 minutes and give them a real go. And then the young lads came on, and I thought they played brilliantly. There were a couple of chances that we created. A couple of times we managed to get balls across the box. Agbor Akizu held the ball up really well. I thought Turley at right back had a proper battle on his hands because he had 2 players on him almost all the time. And he did really, really well to defend against them. And I thought Keelan Robinson, when he wasn't trying to have a fight to the death with whatever attacker had come near him and scrapping him on the ground, he defended well as well next to Jake Rooney. Jamie, you mentioned it already, that conveyor belt of young players is starting to come through again. We're starting to see a few players. Obviously, Isaac Gordon in the first half, and he was up against that Glock that played on the wing, who scored about 15 goals in the Austrian Bundesliga last season and completely locked him up. I mean, it's starting to look good, isn't it? We're starting to see some young lads coming through, and maybe the under-21s might start to climb up that league again.
Well, you hope so, yeah. And I think, as you said there's been some really good reports of some of the young players. It's this time of season. I remember it with Kwaku Adoro when he played well, wasn't it, against Bradford?
Yeah, different league, mate.
Yeah, he is going to be the next Cafu or something like that, I think people were saying. And then he just faded into the abyss. But yeah, you can't get too carried away. You can't put too much pressure on it. But it's a real good exercise, and maybe it's a case of, look, there's teams now that are looking in the loan market. Maybe it's the case that they can get out and go and play league football or go and play national league football and get some minutes under their belt. Or in a very rare situation, and I don't want to promote it too much, maybe they're around the first team. I think probably 1 or 2 will be come the start of the season, rightly or wrongly. So, yeah, it's interesting stuff. Obviously, with the way the game is now, with regards to agents and regards to just the force of the clubs, there will be plans in place and different things going on for different players. But you do like it when a player comes through. How many times have we sat on here and we just like a player a bit more when they come through the academy, your Aaron Cashins and your Max Birds and your Will Hugheses, and we've lost that kind of cohort. I know Tomo's obviously staying on, so how nice would it be to see the next group of players come and play in this first team, and then we can kind of have that throwback feeling of getting excited about players again. So. And the other thing as well is, look, we've talked before we came on air about Arsenal taking a young lad off of our hands. It might be the case that a club like a top 4 or a top 6 club come in and put another offer in, and it's more money that we can then put into bolstering this squad. So yeah, it's all really good times, Jake, I think.
It is, and we've seen Dan Cox has already gone out on loan to Warsaw. I think he went a couple of days ago, so that's a good start. I think we had a time a few years ago where a lot of our young lads were going out on loan. we had quite a lot of the under-21s out on loan. I don't think we've seen that quite as much in recent years. So I think that's, like you said, it's a good start in the right direction. But a player that came out in that second half, obviously we had Tomo as well, who's a senior player now, which I still can't wrap my head around. In my head, he's still about 17. But also young starter Craig Forsyth also came out. I actually thought he played really well, genuinely played really well. And he was one of them, you could hear him organising the team, helping the lads out at centre-back. Obviously, Jake Rooney's got a bit of experience too. But apart from that one time he got turned towards sort of like the end of the second half, he played really well. He went on a marauding run at one point and sort of beat a couple of players and sprayed a crossfield ball. And I came to him at the end and I asked him, does it feel weird being in sort of like, the youth team? And he says, it's getting a bit too familiar now. And he turned away and went, I'm so old, which made me laugh as well. But Cal, I think our left side's looking all right. I know there's been a lot of calls for left backs. I mean, we've said it as well. Do we need another left back? The only issue is obviously the fitness of Elder and keeping him fit for a full season. When I spoke to him, he seemed pretty confident that his injury, his bad injury history was behind him now. He's on a bit of a clean slate, which is good. Fozzie as well, very dependable, very reliable in this division. I mean, do we need another left back? How do you feel about that? I don't want to get too much, we've seen a decent game, we don't need to sign anyone now, that's our squad. But do we genuinely need another left back, or are there other positions where we probably need to be looking instead?
I do think there are a few positions that we do need to be looking at, but I do still think left back is one of them. I think that we need a full back on either side. I don't think just because there is that question mark and because they haven't completed full seasons on either side in terms of like you've got Nyambe on the right hand side who's still not even at a level of fitness yet. We haven't even got Kane Wilson yet, so I definitely think there's one right backs needed. And left back, I think Callum Elder hasn't completed a full season for us, so I think you need at least a starting, whether it's a backup to Elder. I don't know if you can. Would Elder want to be a backup? I don't know. I think Fozzie Con knows his place within the squad as a senior member, and I do think he's watching some of his performances. Some of the things he does is serve Rolls Royce. He's like, I think it was right at the very end of the game. Just they were trying to go down the wing, and he just kind of like bodied, and then just like touched one line past him, and then just smashed up the line just for the referee to blow it up and stuff. And it's just kind of you don't lose it. And yes, he might have. Not in the legs to what his mind wants to do sometimes, but and it maybe tries to just to drop a little bit deeper so he's not in a foot race. But I think in terms of the mind and in terms of the one-on-one defending and knowing where to put his body to make sure he can make the tackle and stuff, he's going to be absolutely brilliant for all the young players. And I think, and also for the new players who are coming in to show what Derby County is, because I think, he's been at the club for so long that we need players who have been here to kind of portray what certain games mean to the fans and what certain games should mean to the players. And we don't, I think we've probably got the best one in Craig Forsyth to do that.
Yeah, we probably do. Jim in the comments says, would you use Ben Osborne as left back cover?
No.
No, I think he'd get bodied around, to be honest. I think he struggles with the physicality. I thought he had a good game, to be fair, Ben Osborne. I think it helped that they were quite open and there was a lot of space in the middle. They were very touchline to touchline with the way they shaped up, and it gave him the space in the center of the pitch to kind of do what he wanted to do. Yes, they pressed quite hard, but he had that moment before that to sort of look up and pick out that pass, and he's not got some 6'4" truck smacking through as he tries to play the ball. But yeah, I probably wouldn't have him as a left back. But that leaves us in a weird position, doesn't it? Because we've also got Elder and Forsyth at left backs. We've got two first team left backs. Right back, we've got Wilson and Nyambe, and obviously Joe Ward as well, who's back in training. Interesting, he didn't go on the camp. He seems to be training quite a lot at the minute at Moor Farm and posting a lot of Instagram videos. Maybe he's doing that thing where you tag loads of people and move it off screen. He's like tagging every League One club or something like that, so they know he's getting fit. But we'll wait and see. Kane Wilson might be back for Burton. He was talking to us. He thinks he might be back for the Burton game. He didn't actually train for the majority of the camp. He only trained the last sort of day or so. He did a session on his own a couple of times. So he's getting back fit, which is nice to see as well. Obviously, we've got a few players that are miles off, but Isaac Gordon's good enough, so we don't need anyone. We don't actually need to sign anyone. We've just got loads and loads of 18-year-olds that can come in and do the job as well. And Jamie, interesting one for you. So we were having a chat with Callum Elder at the end, who, by the way, is genuinely one of the nicest blokes on earth. Like, he's so funny. I really like him. And we were talking to him, and he was saying against Matlock, it was a bit of a weird one because he said, no disrespect to Matlock, you can be 5 yards out of position and it doesn't matter because you know you're going to get there first because the level difference between the teams is so different. And he said playing against Salzburg, they moved the ball so quickly and they were so organised that you had to be switched on. And it kind of raises your level a little bit. He said it doesn't really make you a better player, but it makes you sharper and it makes you switch on. Games like this are really important, aren't they? You know, we saw the derby teams of the past. We play 2 or 3 against like really big sides. I think it's maybe a little bit strange that this pre-season, a lot of the teams were playing a sort of like League One, League Two, National League. Do you have maybe a little bit of concern that we might lose a little bit of sharpness, or do you think playing against the Greek team whose name I've forgotten is like Atramos or something along those lines?
That's it, yeah.
I think they're in the Conference League or Europa League this year, so they're going to be a decent side. Do you think that makes up for it at the end?
What I'd say is under previous regimes, I would have said yes. However, under Eustace, I think no, because I think the level of detail that Eustace will go into with this team, you know, under Warne, you know that I love Warne and I'm happy for everything that he did, and we're not going to make it that episode. However, it just felt like, you know, you guys have got to work hard and we'll play for moments. And if we get the moment, we take the moment, maybe we'll win 2-1. But with Eustace, I think everybody knows what they're doing on the ball, off the ball. That level of detail from his coaching team is just that bit better, in all honesty. So, yeah, I'm not necessarily worried. Of course, you always want a glamour tie. Would I have liked Barcelona at Pride Park? Yes, I would have done. But unfortunately, you don't always get what you want. And I think ultimately all eyes will be on that first game against Stoke. That's when we'll all be there and thinking, right, let's see what this team's all about now. So, yeah, minutes and legs for me. I'm not getting carried away. Yes, we've beaten a Champions League team, but in 10 years' time, we're not going to remember that. We're going to remember the first game against Stoke, as silly as that sounds.
I'll remember it.
You will, definitely. You were there. You had the VIP experience, you know. So, yeah, you lived it. I mean, to be honest, when it kind of came about, it was one of those that I thought I'd like to get out out there and do it. Maybe next year. Let's see where we end up next year. No, if it's Eustace, we'll probably be in Austria again. So you'll be able to show us about, Jake, and yeah, we'll just tag along with you.
I hope not. I can't do any more midnight trains back to Munich. I was on the floor. I was a broken man by the time we got back to the hotel. But no, it's definitely an interesting talking point. Yeah, I don't doubt that Eustace has got it right. I don't doubt a lot of the stuff that man does. I'll tell you what's weird, right? I don't usually get nervous when you talk to like players or managers, anything like. They're just people. It is what it is. When I spoke to Eustace, I was actually a bit nervous. I said, "Oh my god, it's John! It's John Eustace," which is funny as well. I'm trying to think if there's any other comments. One thing on Zetterstrom as well. I'm pretty sure the reason why he's not wearing his hat anymore is because that contributed to his cheekbone injury last year. Could be wrong. But that was some of the talk that was going on, was that, you know, that had sort of hit him in his cheekbone, and that's how he'd ended up, you know, picking up that injury. So he's not using it at the minute, which is why he's not got it on. Not just because he doesn't fancy goalkeeping like against Matlock or something like that. So that's definitely something. But yeah, full time was really weird in the game because sort of the whistle went. Loads of the Salzburg fans ran on the pitch because they wanted to get a picture with the players. And then a few Derby fans were on the pitch where the players were applauding. There were a couple of lads that ran on and started the bounce and stuff like that. And then it was just like, can we actually go on the pitch? Like, can we just do that? I didn't ever just walked on the pitch and ended up having chats with players and managers and things like that. I think the players were out there for probably 30, 40 minutes afterwards, just having conversations and stuff like that. We have a really nice team. We have a genuinely really nice team full of really good lads. And the majority of players were out there for quite a while, chatting to fans, having pictures and stuff like that. And just talking about not even football, you know, sometimes they'd just be talking about what they were doing later that day. When's the flight back and stuff like that. They're asking us that as well, which was really nice. It was like a human conversation, not an athlete and a fan, which is always welcome. So we've got one last thing to look forward to, and that is Walsall and Burton, both away. Callum, are you going Walsall?
I'm going to try, but it's going to look very unlikely at the moment, just because I've got a few bits personally, unfortunately. But yeah, no, I'll be at least watching. I'll watch it either way.
He's too busy.
On Twitter making video compilations. That's why.
Yeah, he's got to clip up some fourth division.
I've got a meet and greet. I've got to go to, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, I'm there as well. Actually, that's funny enough. Cal, I didn't realise you'd fully announced that. But yeah, Walsall away is going to be good. I'm going Burton, which will be a good laugh. Always is a good laugh. Cup final, big game. Bash charity Vars, obviously for a really good cause, but we have to win. We have to win. We won with an attacking midfield three of, I think, Joseph Soon, Bennett, and Kieran Dowell. So you'd hope with the team that we've got now, we should be. I think Waggon's got a hat trick that day. Jamie, looking at those two games, what are you thinking? Do you want to see new players? Do you want to see us change anything? Do you want to see us play a full academy 11? How do you see it going?
No, more of the same. Minutes in legs. Let's keep doing it. Keep trugging on, and it would be good to see a couple of the young lads maybe get a goal. I think that's always nice to see. A goal from one of the young lads would be good. But yeah, I'm not putting too much expectation on it, to be honest. I think you've just got to keep going. And as I keep saying, Stoke's going to be the game where we're all going to have some form of expectation. So for me, just got to keep going. What I will say about Burton, you'll be able to see their kits, which are pretty amazing, aren't they? Yeah, good kits. Good kits. A little bit jealous.
My brother's been on about it the whole time. He says, "Oh, our kit's better than yours," and I'm like, "Yeah, but your team's not." So
don't say that. We play them next week.
Yeah, you wait until they beat us 5-0.
To be fair, they beat Birmingham. They beat Birmingham on yesterday, I think. So
yeah, Birmingham are going to win the league apparently. So that's some result for them. Yusuf's enthusiast says, "Hopefully the weather's good for it." And like at the moment, yeah, it looks grim outside at the minute, doesn't it? But yeah, let's see what we can do. Callum, how do you see the games going, mate?
It'd be interesting. I think doing a Tuesday, Saturday will be interesting to see if they use the same, because we've obviously seen the same starting 11, same pretty much match day squad the last two games. So it'd be interesting to see if we do the same thing to obviously not 4-day turnaround. I think the big one is to see Morris get some minutes in the legs and Environment if we can. That's probably the two things I'd like to see in the next week.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'd be good to see some of the new lads get a bit of a run out as well. Because I think we probably need to see it. We've seen a very samey squad, haven't we, so far this year? It'd be good to see some new players blooded in and get them gelled with the team ahead of the season. Jim says, do you know any J-League gems at left back, Jamie? Worth mentioning that Salzburg had a player they just signed from the J-League. I can't remember his name now, but he was rubbish. So, Jamie, your thing about J-League players being the best players on earth is clearly not correct. But do you happen to know any left backs from that division?
No, I only deal in forwards, unfortunately. So, I'm not a defensive expert, and I wouldn't want to say it because Callum would start crying about thinking about somebody other than Callum Elder. Whenever you say his name, it's almost like you're talking about him. I think he smiles more if you talk about Callum Elder than if you're talking about Callum Boocock. So, yeah, we don't want to make Callum upset. But look, I think this, as I've said before, and I know I keep getting a bit of stick for it here, there, and everywhere. That league is untapped. Okay,
J-League page.
J-League page, exactly. Yes, it's an untapped league. So. Let's see what happens. I will absolutely love it though if we actually announce a player from the J League. I feel like that'll be definitely the episode that I need to do. Right, the J League, the J League app.
I'll tell you what, it'd be nice to get someone in, but it would be so funny if they're rubbish. It would be so funny. I don't think Jamie would ever come back. But right, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure. It's been nice to sort of talk about the game, talk about some memories. It was a really good trip away. My first time following Derby in Europe. I'm sure many others have done some maybe more successful trips in actual competitions and not to a non-league stadium nearby. But it was a nice trip and it was good to have a chat about it. So Thank you so much for listening. If you did enjoy, please do leave a like. Please do subscribe. Check out the vlog. It's on YouTube. It's on TikTok as well. And yeah, give us a rating on Spotify and Apple Pods. And if you do enjoy these and want to get involved in the conversation, we welcome any comments at any time. But if you want to join us at 7 o'clock every Sunday, we're always here. So, come let us know, like Jim in the comments and the rest of the lads. It's always good to have a two-way conversation too. We really enjoy that. So thanks so much. It is goodbye from me.
Always goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
Derby in the Champions League. It's coming sooner than you think. Thank you very much for listening. See you soon.